Have you ever wondered if enlightenment is just another illusion? Something we chase like a mirage, believing that one day, after enough healing, meditating, or detaching, we'll finally arrive. But what if you were never meant to chase it at all? What if enlightenment isn't at the end of a path, but hidden quietly in the way you breathe, the way you listen, the way you are? We've been taught to think of it as escape from pain, from ego, from the chaos of life. But the truth is far more subtle and far more sacred, because real enlightenment doesn't pull you away from the world. It roots you deeper into it. It's not the absence of thought. It's not the death of feeling. It's not floating above life like a ghost. It's remembering. It's presence. It's the moment you realize you were always light. You just forgot how to see it. So if you've been seeking something that feels just out of reach, if you felt the pull towards something deeper, more true, more real, this is the moment to stop chasing and start remembering. Let's talk about what enlightenment really means and why it was never as far away as they told you. What if you were never meant to chase enlightenment? We've been told that enlightenment is something we must earn, that it's the reward at the end of a long, painful road, that one day, after enough shadow work, enough stillness, enough spiritual rituals, we might finally be worthy of the light. This idea has shaped the modern spiritual journey like a distant mirage, always ahead, always just out of reach. But what if that entire narrative is a distraction? What if chasing enlightenment is the very thing keeping us from it? The idea that enlightenment is a destination creates separation. It places a future version of yourself on a pedestal while quietly judging the one who's here right now. It tells you to transcend, to rise above, to reject parts of yourself as unworthy of the sacred. But this is not the path of wholeness. This is not the remembering of soul. This is spiritual performance, subtle, polished, and often invisible even to the self. Enlightenment has nothing to do with becoming someone else. It's not about wearing white robes, speaking softly, or living in permanent neutrality. It's about waking up to the truth of who you already are and who you've always been beneath the noise. It's not a future event. It's not a finish line. It's the shedding of illusion now. What if enlightenment is presence? What if it's being able to hold your full experience, joy, sorrow, confusion, clarity, with compassion instead of control? What if it's not about escaping the human, but finally entering it fully? This realization changes everything. It removes the need to perform. It dissolves the hierarchy between seeker and teacher. It brings you back into your own body, your own breath, your own being. And in that quiet return, the light reveals itself, not as something you must reach for, but as something that has always been pulsing within you. Think about it. How many times have you silenced your anger, your grief, your desire, thinking it was too low vibration? How often have you judged your own process because it didn't look spiritual enough? How many masks have you worn, hoping that one of them would finally unlock the door to the divine? But the divine has never been locked away. It lives in your rawness, in your honesty, in the exact moment you choose to be real instead of polished. Enlightenment isn't a rejection of the shadow, it's the integration of it. It's the ability to see the sacred in both the stars and the soil, in both expansion and contraction. You weren't meant to chase it. You were meant to embody it. And embodiment doesn't happen by running away from your humanity. It happens by coming back to it, reverently, by breathing into the moment, by recognizing that every inhale is a holy act of remembrance. So pause, drop the performance, let the concept of getting there dissolve. Because you were never lost, you were never behind, you were never broken. You were simply unpracticed in being fully here. And perhaps that's all enlightenment ever was. We live in a culture obsessed with arrival. Everything is about getting somewhere, getting better, getting clearer, getting healed, getting there. And in spirituality, this tendency doesn't disappear. It just changes costumes. Enlightenment becomes the new goal, the divine prize waiting at the end of a long, arduous climb. But what if this fixation on arrival is the very illusion we were meant to see through? The idea of a final destination offers comfort. It tells you that one day, all the noise in your head will go silent forever, that all your doubts will disappear, that all your wounds will be healed once and for all, and you'll live in a state of permanent peace, untouched by the world. It seduces you with promises of stillness, but it quietly robs you of presence. It trains your attention to look ahead, to chase the next version of yourself, and to forget that the sacred only ever exists in this moment. You've probably felt it before, that quiet pressure that says, "I'm not there yet." That subtle dissatisfaction, even after a breakthrough, a deep meditation, a profound realization. Because the mind is always asking, what's next? What's more? When will I finally arrive? But the soul knows better. The soul doesn't speak in timelines. It speaks in presence, in rhythm, in the eternal now. The truth is, there is no final destination, and there never was. The path isn't about getting to the end. It's about walking with presence, with openness, with curiosity. It's about realizing that each layer you peel back only reveals another, that each awakening opens the door to deeper questions, deeper truths, deeper unravelings. And maybe that's the beauty of it. We weren't meant to reach some perfect state and stay there, untouched by life. We were meant to evolve, cyclically, messily, honestly. Just like the moon waxes and wanes, just like the tides rise and fall, your journey will have seasons. And none of them are less spiritual than the other. Ask yourself, who would you be if you stopped believing in arrival? What would change if you honored each step as sacred, instead of just the destination? Could you begin to see your confusion as holy, your heartbreak as initiatory, your resistance as the fire that forges you? There's no such thing as a spiritual endpoint. Even the most awakened beings continue to deepen, to question, to shed. They do not stop walking. They just walk with more love. And what happens when you release the need to arrive is profound. You begin to relax into your path. You stop clenching. You stop trying to make your process look like someone else's. You stop judging your lows and romanticizing your highs. You realize that everything belongs to the journey. The light, the shadow, the mess, the mystery. This isn't a race, it's a dance. And it's not about mastering every step. It's about learning to be present with whatever rhythm life is moving through you. You weren't meant to chase enlightenment like a finish line. You were meant to awaken again and again, in deeper layers, to bloom, to shed, to bloom again. So release the illusion that you'll get there and finally become untouchable, because you already are everything you've been searching for, just hidden beneath layers of seeking. And the more you soften into this moment, not as a step towards something else, but as something complete in itself, the more you begin to feel the truth. There is no destination, only presence, only now. What enlightenment really means. Enlightenment, a word that has been written into sacred texts, whispered in monasteries, chased across lifetimes. It evokes images of glowing halos, perfect stillness, infinite peace. But beneath all the symbolism, beyond all the spiritual marketing, what does enlightenment actually mean? What if it's not what we've been taught to believe? The common myth is that enlightenment is a final state, a place where suffering no longer exists, where all desires have dissolved, where you float above life in blissful detachment. It's often portrayed as the ultimate escape from the pain of being human. But what if enlightenment is not about escaping life at all, but fully entering it? To be enlightened is not to become superhuman. It is to become radically, beautifully, honestly human, with your awareness intact. Enlightenment doesn't strip away your emotions. It gives you the capacity to hold them with compassion. It doesn't erase your thoughts. It teaches you not to identify with them. It doesn't protect you from chaos. It reveals the stillness that lives beneath it. It's not about never feeling anger again. It's about not becoming anger when it rises. Not about avoiding fear, but seeing through its illusion and walking anyway. Not about having no shadow, but loving it so deeply that it loses its power over you. True enlightenment is humility. It's soft, quiet. It doesn't shout, "Look how spiritual I am." It whispers, "I see you, I see everything, and I choose love anyway." Enlightenment is not about light versus dark. It's about integration. It's the point where nothing is rejected and everything is seen as sacred. Ask yourself, have you been chasing a version of enlightenment that's about control? Have you mistaken stillness for suppression, perfection for awakening? Have you believed that to be spiritual, you must be above it all? The truth is, many versions of enlightenment are just ego in disguise, dressed up in white robes, quoting ancient scriptures, but still rooted in separation. Real awakening doesn't create distance between you and the world. It creates union. It's not about becoming untouchable. It's about becoming touchable in a deeper, more conscious way. And here's something most people don't tell you. Enlightenment is not one moment. It's not a lightning strike that changes everything and never fades. It's a process, a spiral, a deepening. You awaken, and then you forget. You remember again, and then you're challenged to embody what you remembered in the middle of life's messiness. It's not linear. It's cyclical, living, breathing. You might have already had glimpses of it, in the stillness between two breaths, in the way your heart softens after pain, in those brief moments where everything feels connected and quiet. These aren't accidents, they're invitations. Each glimpse is a doorway, reminding you of what's always been true. Because enlightenment isn't something you achieve, it's something you realize. And what you realize is that it was never far away. It was never hidden in the Himalayas. It was never waiting at the end of 30-day silent retreats. It's been within you the entire time, covered in layers of conditioning, noise, fear, and forgetting. It's the awareness behind your thoughts, the silence that holds your grief, the presence watching you seek. It's not about gaining anything new. It's about remembering what you've always been. A soul, a witness, a current of light moving through form. So no, enlightenment is not a destination. It's not the end of your story. It's the beginning of living it with your eyes open. It's not a crown to wear. It's a responsibility to carry. It's not about rising above the world. It's about loving it more deeply than ever before. And maybe it's not even about you becoming enlightened. Maybe it's about remembering that you already are. You've just been taught to forget. In many spiritual circles, the concept of ego death is romanticized, held up as the ultimate badge of awakening. It's spoken of like a mystical explosion where the self disappears completely, and all that remains is blissful nothingness. For some, it's described as terrifying. For others, liberating. But what if our obsession with killing the ego is, in itself, a misunderstanding of what awakening truly is? Let's be clear. The ego is not your enemy. It is not the villain in your story. It's the mask your soul wears to navigate this human experience. It's the collection of stories, roles, patterns, and defenses you've built to survive, to find love, to make sense of the world. It's not evil. It's adaptive. It's just limited. And when we confuse it with who we truly are, we suffer. So, what is ego death really about? Ego death refers to moments when the veil of identification with your personal identity drops, when the story of me dissolves into something vast, something impersonal. These moments can come during deep meditation, breathwork, plant medicine, grief, or spontaneous awakenings. You may feel as if you are no one and everything at once. No past, no future, no name, just presence. But here's the truth that's often skipped. Ego death is not permanent. The personality comes back. The I returns. It has to. You're still here, in a body, in a life. And that's not a failure of awakening. That's the purpose of it. Because what matters more than ego death is what happens after. Do you come back more aware, more compassionate, more free? Or do you return trying to reject, suppress, or spiritually bypass the parts of yourself that are still healing? This is where ego integration comes in. True awakening is not about annihilation. It's about illumination. It's not about destroying the ego, but bringing it back into its proper role. as a servant to the soul, not its master. Think of your ego like a frightened child who has spent years trying to protect you. It built walls where you needed safety. It wore masks where you felt unloved. It performed, defended, avoided, achieved. Not because it's bad, but because it was trying to help. When we awaken, we don't exile this child. We kneel beside it. We listen. We bring it into the light. Integration means honoring the ego's journey while no longer being run by it. It means recognizing your triggers, your fears, your patterns, and choosing consciously instead of unconsciously. It means you no longer push your ego away, nor do you let it drive the car. You bring it with you, seatbelt on, soul in the driver's seat. So ask yourself, have you been trying to kill your ego instead of understand it? Have you mistaken awakening for war against the self? What if the parts of you you've tried to suppress are the very ones that need your presence most? Ego integration is the alchemy of shadow and light. It's the sacred act of becoming whole. You stop rejecting the parts of you that are scared, angry, wounded, or small, and instead you bring them home. Because in the light of your awareness, nothing is separate, nothing is unworthy, everything belongs. The obsession with ego death can sometimes be a spiritual bypass, a subtle rejection of humanity, a desire to escape the mess of being a person. But real spiritual maturity doesn't run from the human. It embodies it, with presence, with softness, with humility. Integration is slower than ego death, less dramatic. It doesn't always come with visions or bliss or transcendence. Sometimes it looks like crying on your kitchen floor and choosing to stay present. Sometimes it's choosing to breathe instead of lash out. Sometimes it's saying, I was wrong, or I don't know, or I still love you even though I'm afraid. These small moments of presence, that's where the soul meets the ego. That's where heaven touches earth. That's where awakening becomes real. So, yes, you may have ego death experiences. You may touch the infinite. You may dissolve into the everything and come back changed. But don't get addicted to the high of disappearance. Stay for the integration. That's where the gold is. Because in the end, enlightenment is not about becoming less human. It's about becoming more fully, deeply, consciously human. Not with a dead ego, but with a heart awakened enough to hold it with love. And maybe that's the most sacred thing of all. Not ego death, but ego embraced. Not perfection, but presence. Presence is one of those words we hear so often in spiritual circles that we sometimes forget its power. But presence isn't a concept. It's a frequency. It's not something you understand intellectually, but something you remember through experience. Presence is the gateway, the turning point, the place where awakening truly begins. So what does it mean to be present? Presence is not just being in the moment, in a casual sense. It's inhabiting the moment fully, with your entire being. It's feeling your breath without needing to change it. It's hearing the sound of a bird, or the hum of silence, and recognizing it as sacred. It's letting your awareness rest here, not rushing into the future, not clinging to the past. Presence is radical. It stops time. It strips away illusion. It asks for your full attention, not just to what is happening outside of you, but to what is rising within you. It invites you to witness without judgment, to soften into what is, without trying to fix it, to surrender to the unfolding, even when you don't understand it. In presence, you become available to truth. That's why it's such a powerful catalyst for awakening, because when you are truly present, the noise begins to fall away. The identifications loosen. The masks drop. You start to see with the eyes of the soul. You begin to recognize that beneath the layers of doing, performing, planning, and protecting, there is simply being, and that being is enough. It is from this space of presence that the most profound spiritual realizations emerge, not from reading, not from rituals, not even from seeking, but from being, quietly, honestly, here. Presence doesn't require perfection. It doesn't demand that you be enlightened or always peaceful. It simply asks that you come home to what's real right now, even if what's real is messy, painful, or uncertain. Even if what's real is discomfort, presence holds it all, and in doing so, it transforms it. So ask yourself, when was the last time you truly allowed yourself to feel a moment without reaching for distraction? Are you moving through life from a place of reaction or response? Are you with yourself, or are you constantly trying to escape your own experience? These aren't questions meant to judge. They are invitations. Because presence doesn't shame you for leaving. It simply waits for your return. And here's the deeper truth. Every moment you return to presence, you are awakening. Bit by bit, breath by breath. Awakening is not a destination you reach. It's a space you remember. And presence is the doorway. When you stop chasing the future, when you stop resisting the now, when you stop trying to force a version of yourself into being, presence reveals what's always been underneath. Awareness, peace, stillness, God. Presence brings you back into relationship with the divine. It's the moment when you look into the eyes of a stranger and feel your shared humanity. It's the breath you take before speaking a truth that scares you. It's the pause before you react, the heartbeat before you respond, the moment you remember that this, too, is holy. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's transformative. Because in presence, life is no longer something happening to you. It becomes something happening with you, through you, as you. You step into co-creation, not through force, but through awareness. You begin to see the synchronicities, the quiet miracles, the way the universe speaks in subtle nudges and soft whispers. And perhaps the most powerful shift of all, in presence, you no longer seek awakening as something outside of you. You realize it's already here. You are not becoming, you are revealing. You are not arriving, you are remembering. So take a breath, right now. Feel into your body. Notice the space around you, the energy behind these words. Let presence return you to yourself. Because the role of presence in awakening is not secondary, it is everything. It is the bridge between illusion and truth, between thought and awareness, between ego and soul, between time and eternity. And the more you choose it, the more you awaken to what's been here all along. Not something to chase, but something to come home to. There comes a moment on the path, often after layers have been shed, after truths have been faced, after silence has been embraced, when you begin to feel light. Not light as in carefree or naive, but light as in spacious, quiet, unburdened. And yet, that very lightness can be mistaken for something else. For emptiness, for lack, for nothingness. But lightness is not emptiness. It is presence, refined. Many people, when they start releasing attachments to identity, to drama, to needing constant stimulation, fear that they are losing themselves. They fear the quiet. They fear the stillness. They interpret the absence of chaos as the absence of meaning. But this fear doesn't come from the soul. It comes from the ego, which was trained to associate density with depth, stimulation with value, and emotional charge with importance. The truth is, most of what we've been taught to call meaningful is actually just loud. We've been taught to seek the highs and lows, to chase intensity, to mistake internal storms for aliveness. So when we arrive in a space where the storms have calmed and the waters feel still, we may ask, is this it? Is this all? But ask yourself, is peace really a void, or is it a return? You see, lightness isn't the absence of depth, it's the expression of depth without weight. It's what remains when the performance ends. It's the grace that emerges when the inner noise subsides. It's not about being above life. It's about being fully present within it, without carrying everything on your back. True lightness isn't floating away from reality. It's being in reality without getting swallowed by it. There's a kind of joy that comes with this lightness, but it's not the explosive kind. It's a quiet joy, a steady joy, the kind that lingers in the breath or in the space between thoughts, the kind that smiles without needing a reason. It's the joy of existence itself, a joy that doesn't need validation, a joy that just is. And there's a reason why so many ancient mystics, sages, and enlightened beings radiated this lightness. It's not because they had no pain, it's because they had stopped identifying with it. They didn't numb themselves, they freed themselves. They didn't escape emotion, they stopped drowning in it. They allowed life to move through them without clinging to every wave. But we must ask, can we meet this lightness without rushing to fill it? Can we allow space to be sacred? Can we let the absence of noise become music? Can we stop chasing intensity long enough to realize that the soul doesn't need fireworks? It needs peace. If you've been walking the path and you feel yourself entering this lightness, don't turn back. Don't confuse simplicity with emptiness. Don't fill the quiet out of habit. Let yourself feel the expansion. Let yourself exist without a script. Let yourself soften, because in that softening, you'll discover something wild and profound. You are not lacking. You are not unfinished. You are not waiting for some future version of yourself to complete you. You're already whole, and lightness is proof of that. You don't need to carry the world to be strong. You don't need to be weighed down by your past to be wise. You don't need to constantly do to be worthy. Sometimes the most powerful transformation is not in gaining more, but in releasing, not in achieving, but in allowing, not in proving, but in being. So if you feel the lightness come, welcome it. Don't fear the space it brings. Don't assume that less sensation means less life. Sometimes, the quietest frequencies carry the deepest truths. Let yourself float, not to escape, but to return. Let yourself breathe, not to prepare for battle, but to simply be alive. Let yourself remember that lightness is not the absence of meaning. It is the presence of soul. There is a moment on every seeker's path, quiet and unassuming, when the search itself begins to dissolve. Not because the questions were answered in words, not because a final destination was reached, but because something deeper awakened. A soft, wordless knowing, a recognition. And in that space, you don't find something new. You remember something ancient. You remember the light, not the light outside you, not the light you were taught to chase, but the light that is you, the light you've always been, the light that was never lost, only buried beneath layers of story, pain, effort, and forgetting. We've been taught to seek enlightenment like a treasure at the end of a long, winding road. To believe that awakening is something we earn through struggle, sacrifice, or suffering. But what if the truth is simpler, more intimate than that? What if enlightenment is not about becoming something else, but about finally remembering what you've always been? You are the light remembering itself. You are the soul recognizing its own reflection in the stillness. You are the breath of the divine, breathing yourself awake. The pain you've carried, the illusions you've unlearned, the shadows you've faced, none of it was wasted. Each moment, each breakdown, each deep surrender carved space within you. And in that space, the light began to rise, not as a sudden explosion, but as a quiet dawn, gradual, gentle, unstoppable. And yet, even this remembering is not an end. It's a beginning, the return to your essence and the unfolding of a new way of being. So what does it mean to live as the light? It means choosing presence over performance. It means honoring your truth even when it trembles. It means walking this world without pretending, without shrinking, without hardening your heart just to survive it. It means holding space for the divine in all things, not just in temples or sacred texts, but in your breath, in your relationships, in the way you move through ordinary moments. The sacred is not somewhere else. It's here. It's in you. To live as the light is not to be perfect. It's to be real, to be aware, to be soft where the world has gone numb, to be still where the world is rushing, to be rooted when everything is uncertain. It's to remember that you are not the roles you've played, not the fears you've believed, not the masks you've worn to be accepted, loved, or safe. You are the consciousness beneath it all. You are the light watching through the eyes of the human. And that light is eternal. You don't have to seek it anymore. You only have to trust what's already whispering inside you. That pull toward presence, that ache for truth, that longing for peace, that sudden breath that reminds you you're here. There's a reason you're drawn to this path. There's a reason your soul won't let you go back to sleep. There's a reason the old ways no longer fit. Because you are remembering. And as you remember, you begin to radiate. You become a mirror for others, a light in the dark, a quiet invitation to return to what's real. You don't have to fix the world. You don't have to force anyone to change. You only have to be who you truly are and let that authenticity ripple. Because in the end, the greatest awakening is not about transcending this life. It's about fully showing up for it. Eyes open, heart open, light intact. You are not here to escape the world. You are here to illuminate it, just by being yourself. So breathe deep, come home to your center, and remember, you are not becoming the light. You are the light, finally remembering itself.